Hello and welcome everybody. I'm here with Nadia G. I'm getting a little feedback. And today we're going to be discussing her book and her writing process and everything that she's been through in the writing realm. So, welcome Hadia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
You're fine. Are you hearing me good? Or is there feedback
Yes,
on your
yes,
end
yes,
for me?
yes. I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, good. Okay. I'm like watching these bars. Okay. So, how have you been thriving through the pandemic?
It's been overall a challenge. I'm just learning how just to deal with the challenge and the reality that this may last a little bit longer than many of us was expecting.
Yeah. 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 It's definitely a lot longer than we expected. So I think it's like it's becoming like we have to change our way of life basically. And I think that's the best way to get through this is we're going to have to start looking at kind of altering how we do business and entertain ourselves. So, yeah, it's brought about a lot of changes. So tell me about your book.
Okay. Pieces of Me with Company is a collection of some of my short stories,
Okay.
some of my poetry of someone I respect, Gareth Bryant out of New York.
Mhm.
Also, photos of original abstract art
Mhm.
by mother and daughter team Jenna
Nice.
Smith and Hamila
Mhm.
Rashid.
Okay. Okay. And give me like what is one of your favorite stories from the book?
Um, One cold winter day.
One
And the
cold winter
reason
day.
why
Mhm.
that my sister and I had the flu at the same time. I'm almost 4 years older than she is.
Mhm.
When we lived in Milwaukee, we lived in a small place. In fact, the
Mhm.
bedroom we were in, we didn't have twin beds. We had, guess what they call, it's not a queen bed, it's a little bit smaller, full size
Mhm. A
bed.
full size bed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were, together in that bed with the flu, fever,
Mhm.
breaking fever, and all. So, yeah, that's my favorite story.
Oh, sounds like a good strong bonding moment, huh?
Yes.
For you and your sister. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. So tell me more about the passion that you have, your passion behind your book for writing.
This particular book came about due to the pandemic upending a book that I was working on. We
Mhm.
were about halfway through it, and the pandemic hit, and everyone just
Mhm.
scattered. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's lives were so hectic, they were putting everything, on hold.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a small publisher like me, I I must have a book out or something out every other year
Yes.
as a stream of revenue.
Mhm.
And so that had happened. I was learning how
Mhm.
to do a lot of things that I hadn't done in the past, um, using more technology because of the
Mhm.
pandemic. I would usually go out to book fairs,
Yeah.
vending events in my religious community and in the community
Mhm.
as a whole. So really talking
Mhm.
to people, face to face, selling my book to them. So that
Mhm.
was taken
Mhm.
away. So now I have to learn how to use Facebook Live and also try to learn how to use the other online, platforms, how to
Right.
write copy that hopefully will grab, everybody.
Mhm.
So it was, pretty challenging time, still is, and a pretty
Yes.
busy time. Well, my passion is
Mhm.
that I just like to write. I didn't grow up wanting to be a writer.
Mhm.
Uh, when I went to school, I wasn't focused on literature or anything like that. In fact, I
Right.
was in the sciences. So now I
Oh,
have to re-educate myself to learn
okay.
about various forms of literature, short
Yeah.
story, poetry, and eventually a
Yeah.
full-fledged novel or
Oh,
just a
good.
full or just a full-fledged book. So
Mhm.
that's where I am. Just a lot of things kind of coming up and re-educating myself, learning more about the trade.
Mhm.
I'm very passionate that writers should know how to get their word or their works into the public. So you're not totally dependent
Mm.
on someone liking you.
Right.
Because you can write something, it can be great, but your traditional publishing houses, they're looking at the bottom line. And if your work is
Mhm.
just a
Mhm.
little bit different than what they're handling, you're just not going to be the one on top. And even if they
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and then even if
Mhm.
they do select you, they'll work with you. Your work will be, proofread and edited. However, you may not get much on the marketing end.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because
so
it's yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to market basically, and it's out of what they're usually market. I guess I don't know their usual techniques. I don't know, but yeah, I get that. I like my first book. I decided not to even pursue traditional publishing for that reason because it was such a niche. I didn't feel like a publishing company would pick it up. Maybe that was a wrong belief system, but I researched a lot of popular authors at that time, and that was one kept getting rejected over and over and over again until she was finally published, and that was the lady who wrote Harry Potter, and then the lady wrote Twilight. She self-published, but she self-published only to get it. She doesn't consider it self-publishing because she sent it out to agents. It was easier to send it in a book form. So, until she finally got picked up, but it was the kids in school who picked up her book that loved it. So it's hard. It is hard for authors to really get um, the 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 support, especially when they have something that's a little bit different. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So as a so you're a publisher, or you're a publisher, correct? Or
yes,
a consultant? Okay.
I do both.
Okay. Cool. You do both. Okay. Cool. Good. That's great. So my thing is, as a publisher, what is one of the main problems you run up against with publishing books?
A lot of people say they want to write, and I
Mhm.
guess in their mind they really want to. However, when you start working with them and they realize there are a lot of things they're going to have to do besides
Yeah.
just sit in front of a computer screen and write, then it starts to get a
Yeah.
little bit um, difficult. Uh, then being taken seriously. Let's face it, I'm not Random House. I can't offer someone $5,000, $10,000, $20,000,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
to write their book and give me a year to get it out and into the marketplace. And
Right.
then some
Right.
people think they know,
That's true.
and that's the
That's true.
worst part. They just
Yeah, because
expect,
they're hard to correct. Mhm.
yeah. See, now I have other people to do the editing, and they're qualified to do it.
Mhm.
And that's when it really gets kind of touchy when the editor brings up something um, and they are not ready to accept the criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't take it personal.
Yeah.
You just have to understand that you're looking at it and you're not going to be as objective as someone who's not you.
Right. Right.
That's your baby. You've been up with that, you may have
Yeah.
done a couple of all-nighters. So it's not personal. They're not trying to, pick you apart or put you
None of
down. They're
that.
just letting you know what they see.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it can just get really, really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I can
Okay.
hear
We're
you now.
back. Okay. Good. Anytime it does that, we're just gonna pause. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, as I was saying, like, well, now I forgot what I was saying.
We were talking about working with people, being a publisher. What is it that my challenges I run into?
Yeah. Yeah, as a writer, as an author, you have to be open to criticism, constructive criticism. And you have to kind of detach yourself from your own work at a certain point. After you've written it, you got to detach yourself, give it a break, and then come back and look at it as a skeptic. And I think I took me a long time to learn that's something that I had to do. And I think everybody's kind of like on their journey to learning that. Some people are ahead, some people are not ready. Some people think because of their background and their knowledge that they don't need that they got this, and you're too close to it. It has nothing to do with your education level or anything. It's just that you're too close to the story, so you got to step back. So that, yeah, and that is difficult when it's somebody who's been writing for a while, but you think they would know that, but
Not
it doesn't always
necessarily.
happen. Yeah,
And then money.
yeah.
Like when the first
That's
thing I talk with people about, are you really ready to invest in yourself?
hmm
Because it's not going to happen for free. I
no,
don't care what
no,
platform you use, you're going to spend some money.
yeah,
And are
and
you really ready to make that
yeah.
investment?
I've even known traditional published authors who had to push extra, put extra money behind marketing their book. So, whether you self-publish or not, it's not like when you traditionally publish, you just hand off your book and then kick back and relax. You have to, on your own platform, push your own book, because if your book doesn't generate enough sales, it's going to be harder for them to pick you up again for a next book. There's other things you got to look at. It's at the end of the day, it's a business. It's nothing personal. It's just a business, and they need to make sales.
Yeah,
So,
there's the
yeah,
art part and then there's the business part. If the
yeah,
business part is not in order, the art's not happening.
yeah. That's true. That is true. So, hold on. I think I froze again. Okay, I didn't know I was back. So tell me about the online forum that inspired you.
Well, this forum, I joined them about a year ago, and I did it to have the interaction with other creatives,
Mhm.
professionals. They have challenges. That's what they call their contest.
Okay.
And I just felt since it was so open
Mhm.
and I could learn how to write in other genres,
Mhm.
have someone review it. And if
Mm.
it's posted, okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Other people will see it.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a very fairly large, forum, and I
Yeah.
just felt it was just a good place for me, to be.
Right. And if anybody's interested in joining this forum, they can contact you to get
Yeah,
more information. Okay. Sounds great. So, yeah, I like the forums because it is the author support. Anything where, authors need a lot of support, and a lot of times the support comes from strangers, um, and not so much the people you would think. So it then certainly if anybody's interested, please contact Hadia. Did I say your name right?
Yes,
Hadia?
perfect.
Oh, okay. Okay. So so tell me more. Okay, I like the title Pieces of Me
Pieces
with
of me.
Company. With company. What inspired you to come up with that title? What is the story behind the title? Is what I'm asking.
Actually, because the short stories are pieces of me. I've been
Mm.
working on those short stories as writing exercises for a little bit more than a
Mhm.
year. And
Okay.
it's just a part of me. Like the story about the one cold winter day.
Mhm.
That's about my sister and I. She was 4, I was 8.
Mhm.
There's another story about my first day at college. When I
Mhm.
left home to go to college and then when I actually arrived. There's a
Mhm.
story
Mhm.
about meeting my grandfather and being around
Oh
him
wow.
one time.
Wow,
So
one
those are
time.
my personal stories. And then the others are where I've dabbled into fiction in general. Some of that
Okay.
fiction is horror, some of the fiction is fantasy, some of the fiction is, mm, yeah, horror, fantasy, and just
So it's
making something
yeah,
up.
go ahead. Yeah. So it's a collection of a variety of fiction and nonfiction.
Oh, yes. Because
You got a couple done. That's cool. I like that. Mhm.
I usually write nonfiction. That's how I got started.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
joining the online platform, I feel
Mhm.
safe to venture into other genres
Right.
as a learning exercise. I feel that any criticism that I may get is going to be
Mhm.
good for me. I haven't had anyone just try to
Mhm.
slice and dice me up,
Right.
although some of the criticism can appear to be harsh, even
Mhm.
if it's not really meant to be harsh. But I feel like
Right.
everyone is in the same place I am, even if they're more advanced or they've been writing longer. Everyone's just
Right.
trying to hone their craft, get better at it, get it out there,
Mhm.
and hopefully get paid
Yeah.
decently one day.
Yeah. You're leaving behind a legacy also when you write a book. That's like one of the important things for me. Like I was looking at there's something left behind for my kids and my grandkids to say, oh, this is what, mom and grandma did, like that's the beauty of a book. It leaves behind a piece of you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, and then I get the with company part. It's the artists and the other poets that came in and
Yes.
joined you. Yeah, beautiful. That's very beautiful. So, how do you prep yourself for writing? Do you have like a
It's
routine?
not necessarily a routine that's written down step one, two, three, or four. I just make
Mhm.
sure I'm okay. I
Okay.
make sure that I have something to eat, I have something to drink.
Mhm.
I do my moderate workout
Mhm. Mhm.
before I sit in front of the computer. I make
Right.
sure I'm okay, I'm taken care of. So when I sit in front of the computer, that's dedicated time to writing. If it's
Mhm.
30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, that's what I'm
Right.
focused on is writing.
That's good. That's really good. I That's really good. Yeah. Do you shut off your social media when you write?
Oh
Like do you
yeah.
leave Yeah. Yeah, because you really can't get anything done
Oh no, no, no.
with all those
When I
pings
sit
and
in front of my
notifications.
computer, it's me and that blank
Business.
page. So it's up to me to put something on it.
Nice. That's how it should be. That is definitely how it should be. So you chose to do self-publishing,
Yes.
correct? Right.
Now,
And mhm,
eventually, I want to be able to submit
to
to
traditional.
either an agent who will pitch a book for me or get bold enough to pitch directly to one of the larger publishing houses. But I feel
Right.
right now self-publishing, I can learn more about the
Mhm.
industry, have more
Right.
experience. So when I feel I have some material that's ready
Mhm.
for what I call prime time, I can feel confident
Mhm.
doing it and taking the necessary steps to get in front of a publisher.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. It's good to really know the industry you're going to be in before you really dive into the deep end, or run with the big dogs, like they say. So yeah, self-publishing is a great, great way to do that. What was I gonna? Yeah, I self-published all of my books, and I don't know. I'm still on the fence with if I ever want to traditionally publish. I think you have to know. I guess for everybody, everybody's different, so they have to know what's their end game, and that's normally what I tell other people. Like, if your end game is to be a be a published author, then yes, by all means, that's the way to do it. But if your end game is to keep all the rights to your material, then you probably don't want to go that route. So
Now,
that's
right now,
normally what
that's
I
how I
tell
feel about the
people
books
that
I'm
I
doing.
talk
I
to.
don't want
So
someone else to have everything.
what are the plans for your future projects? I know you said you're working up to having a full length novel. Is it going to be fiction or nonfiction?
I'm not even sure of that yet. I'm just working along, and my work with the platform helps me in that regard.
Let's see. Oh, okay. You froze. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. You froze for a second, so I didn't get to hear what you said about your future writing project.
Yeah. Right now, I just want to get more experience. I want to learn more
Okay,
and do more.
okay,
Then
okay.
eventually, I think I'll know when it's time for me to take that step.
About the
If
whole,
it is
yeah,
successful, I still may, if a publisher picks up one of my books, be glad for that experience and then come back to
yeah,
self publishing. I just want
yeah,
to have
yeah,
options.
yeah. No, that's good. That is good, and options are always really good. What advice can you offer anyone going through a similar experience with now this is going to be like their first time writing, they're now getting into the whole publishing thing. What advice would you give a new author?
Do their homework, read. YouTube has a lot of real good videos by some of the superstar authors, as well as
Mhm.
other people who have their various levels of success. But just learn,
Mhm.
get out there, learn, take notes, then
Mhm.
do. I treat my
Wow.
projects now as my living classroom. So I look
Mm.
at what's happening with pieces of me with company, not take down
Mhm.
notes. What's happening in marketing, um, what's happening in audience, response. Uh, so when I do the next book, I have
Mhm.
those notes, and I know what worked best and what didn't, and so
Right.
the next experience will
Right.
be better.
Right. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. You got to know what you're doing. How can um how can viewers support you as an author? Besides buying your book, that's always the best way to support an author.
um, I publish some of my short stories on Facebook. So when I post
Mhm.
those stories and ask people to view them, do
Mhm.
that. View them. Send me
Share
your
like, yeah. Mhm.
your criticisms. I take criticism very well, constructive
Mhm.
as well as non-constructive, because I've learned how where to put the non-constructive, criticism, and I
Yeah.
just know how to handle that. And although
Right.
it can be ouch, it hurts,
Mhm.
it toughens you up because when
What's
people
the
read,
Mhm. Go ahead.
because when people yeah, because when people read your work or thinking about reading your work, they want to have some idea that they may like it,
Mhm.
unless they're the real avid reader. Um,
Right.
they want to have some idea that they, like it. A lot of people buying books is not number one priority, with them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like, oh, this is a major thing. I'm spending $9, $10, $15, $20. And I just want to have some idea that I'm going to get something out of it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's to me, that's what the not so constructive criticism helps with. It helps us toughen you
Mhm.
up. So when you get that
Right.
person who spent that $13 and they kind of felt, you know, I didn't get my
Yeah.
money's
Yeah.
worth, you can just handle that. And it
Yeah.
doesn't tear you
Yeah.
apart. You don't turn around and quit.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true. It will make you stronger. That is very true. What is the I guess what's the realest or harshest criticism I should say that you had to dealt
Oh,
with
I've
your
had
books?
several. The hardest one was from someone who's a
Oh,
very
really?
dear friend. And he read one of my
Oh.
stories and he just didn't get it. And I understood
Oh.
from his criticism that he just didn't get it. And that's going to happen.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he just kind of went up and down the scale. Well, I didn't understand all these twists and turns, and it seemed disjointed, to me. Um,
Mhm.
just, you know, just kind of on that line. And
Yeah.
so what I understood when he said disjointed, that he just
Mhm.
didn't get it because the story that I had written, it
Mhm.
was about, it was my first attempt at horror. And it wasn't
Oh, okay.
and it wasn't
Mhm.
meant to flow exactly one thing after another. You
Right.
know what? And the person was a little bit of a different vampire. They weren't the classical fangs and
Yeah.
blood, all over the case. It was placed. It was more like you would have to inject that. And when you read it, if you really read it, eventually you catch on. This person's really different,
Mhm.
and oh, they're one of them.
Mm.
It's just that he just didn't get it
Yeah.
because other people read it. Because after I got his comment, I said, "Wait a minute, I don't want to move forward with this if I've completely missed the
Right.
mark." So
Mhm.
it was on my news feed on Facebook. So I really sent a couple of posts out, strongly encouraging people to
Mhm.
read it. Then I sent it to several people on
Yeah.
their, um, timeline news feed, and I
Mhm.
got a mixed reaction, but it
Mm.
wasn't like his. Some of them,
Okay.
yeah, the one said, "I wasn't sure what was going on, so I kept
Mhm.
on reading to try to figure out what was going on." And they said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I finally got it. Your
Uh,
character is a vampire." But they didn't fall into that stereotypical vampire
yeah. Yeah.
realm.
We live in a world that glorifies wickedness. It's so easy to be bad. It's easy to make excuses for poor behavior as if no one is watching. But what if someone is watching? What if not just someone, but a whole invisible world of people, of judges, watching and observing, and they were able to see the destruction of our future based on our actions, our choices? Would we continue to make the same poor choices if they were used against us? May Gordon has been violated repeatedly by our world, but through the eyes of the unseen, she is a hero. Despite all that is thrown at her, she never allows negative energy to remold her into its liking. She remains indestructible.
So it's kind of almost like a horror mystery.
Yes,
Yeah. That's different. That's unique. I like that because I know readers, they actually do like to try to figure it out what's going on. And that's why they say with like show don't tell,
you're
because
right.
when you're constantly telling them what everybody's thinking and doing, it leaves no mystery for them and they lose interest. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, he probably just didn't. And this is why I always say you can't always please everybody. There's
Right.
nothing that anybody's going to write that everybody's going to love. So
I've heard some very horrible comments people made about people like like Toni Morrison, even Stephen King. They have their people that just don't get what they do.
really,
Yeah. So
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
so if they do it to them
yeah.
and
I've
they're the
heard.
masters.
I've even heard. Right. Yeah, it's true. You can't please everybody because I've even had people complain about Steven Spielberg. So, and he has, I don't even know how many books he has, but and how long he's been writing. But um yeah, I can see like another author. My mom used to read a lot of romance novels when I was growing up. That was her favorite pastime. And she used to read a lot of Daniel Steele.
Oh yeah.
But when I was researching authors, I looked up Daniel Steele, and one of the comments was interesting to me. One of the comments said, you know, all her books are the same. It's the same storyline, just different characters, different names. And I thought about it and I looked through and I was like, well, I think that's kind of part of the pressure from being a part of a traditional publishing. Produce a certain amount of books, each year, per per their contract, whatever their contract is. And I don't know if that was a part of it, why she didn't have her. It's almost like if her mind doesn't have time to really step outside the box and really think of something, different, because she's constantly having to meet this quota. So I thought that was interesting what she had said. Because I like to research a lot of different authors. I'm more interested in the author than the book. I'm that type of person. I'm more interested in their story of how they came about writing and how it was for them and their experience. So yeah, it's interesting. The whole field is very, very interesting. So you said that your favorite story is the one with you and your sister. One cold winter's night. Was it one cold winter's night? Is that
No, one
what was
cold
the
winter
title of it?
day. One cold winter day.
Can you hear me? Or did you freeze?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, oh, okay. You were frozen for a second. Oh, okay. Yeah. Tell me more about your favorite story between you and your sister.
Well, it made me remember and appreciate how close we are. Although we have very seldom lived in the same city since we've been adults. and how that
Mm,
closeness came about. Also, the closeness with our mother, um, because our mother was there taking care of us and doing the things that mothers do.
mhm.
So that's why I really like it. It just brought back some real warm, fuzzy feelings from
Yeah.
my youth.
Wow. That's beautiful. So, tell me more about the business end of what you do. How I guess what type of customer are you looking for basically for publishing? Are you looking for new authors, experienced authors?
I work with new authors if they have some experience.
Mhm.
uh, I'll know if I'll be able to help them or not.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
can't help them, I will not take them on. I know there's
Okay.
some people, although they are still not where they've established themselves
Mhm.
completely, there's not anything I can do for them.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would be better for them just to get a manuscript together and just really go over to Random House or McGraw-Hill or whatever, just kind of learn how
Mhm.
to, fight that. That there's nothing I can do for them. Most of the
Right.
people I work with are new. It's either their first or second book.
Okay.
If it's
Okay.
their first book, um, I've had some very wonderful experiences, and then I've had some nightmares
Wow. Wow.
because although I want to make the money, I need to make
Mhm.
the money. I'm just not gonna fight with you.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So you had
Uh,
people really be argumentative?
they try to be, and then that's when I said, "Well, this is what it's like,
Yeah.
and everybody's not for everybody. So
Right.
why don't we stop here? We're not spending any more time. We're not spending any more money. I will even look up people that they could possibly go to."
That's good. At least you're
And
helping.
usually, what happens, a lot of people think they know this industry. They're not trying to really learn this industry.
Mhm.
And then they have their friends or their relatives, talk to them. Well, she told you to do what? I don't see why you have to, because I meet people where they are.
Right.
And the first thing, do you really want to do this? So we may go through a couple of consultations about, why don't you look this up? Why don't you try this? And then when we meet again next week, we can talk about how you feel about that. Then some people just
Mhm.
need to, like I'm doing, I'm educating myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I will suggest that they uh, go on YouTube, and usually I have a list of people that I've already gone to, so to give the they're not just out there on their own.
Mhm.
And then you have people, they have an idea about something. It sounds real great to them in their
Mhm.
head. However, it's not real practical for them as the first time writing a book
Mhm.
to do. And then there's, the money part. And usually that's when a relative or friend jumps
Mm.
in. Are you sure you're not getting ripped off and da 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 da? And that's when I say, wait, we either
Yeah.
trust each other,
No, we don't.
or we don't. And
Mhm.
if that's the case, we can stop right here. We're not going to spend any more money. We're not going to waste any more time. And here's a list of people you can talk to.
I like that. I like that. You're not just making it, cutting them off and that's it. You're give them another route.
No, because
Find someone
before
else
I'll
you can
pick
work with.
someone
Yeah.
up to work with them,
Mhm.
we have a
Mhm.
15 to 20-minute conversation absolutely free.
Mhm.
And my
Mhm.
questions are geared so I can know where they are. Because some
Right.
people, it's a hobby. but they haven't realized that it's a hobby. And some people, they're
Mhm.
serious. They want to see how far they can go.
Mm. And those are the people I'd probably be more interested in working with. Those who are taking it more seriously and not just
Yeah.
this is just a hobby for me. Yeah, I
And
can
it's
see that.
okay if you're just writing, because one author I worked with, he had been an engineer all his life, because that's what he had to do to take care of his family. And he came
Mhm.
from a family of engineers. He said he wanted to write a book that's more academic and more religious because he had some ideas and he had been studying, and he
Mhm.
felt that that particular viewpoint wasn't really stressed
Mhm.
uh, in our faith. And that's all
Mhm.
he wanted to do. He wanted to write that book, get it out there for his family, although he has a very large family.
Wow.
Um, but he wasn't necessarily interested if he was, where he was on the Amazon ratings, or
Mhm.
if no one outside of his family purchased, the book. And
Mhm.
when I said
Mhm.
large family, I'd say he had about 35 or 40 people here
Wow.
in the US. And then he
Wow.
had that family abroad. That
Wow.
probably would purchase the book because this is uncle or this is grandfather or
Right.
this is brother.
Mhm.
Um, and he was very reasonable as far as money. He knew
Mhm.
how much that he could spend. And he's told
Mhm.
me, if it's going to cost more than this, then I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
find another way, or just hold off for a moment. So he was
I
pretty,
like that. Yeah.
and it worked out well. He got the manuscript completed, and
Mhm.
then he died. So his son took up actually the
Oh.
part from the manuscript being finished until getting out and into the public.
Oh. Well, I'm glad his son picked it up. That's really good. And wow, but that's a big family. Yeah.
That's the U.S. end. That's how many of them were able to leave the country they were in and come here, and they still had probably that many or more still in their home country.
Okay. Okay. Well, you mentioned YouTube. I call it YouTube University. I've been telling my kids about it since they were young. Um, and it's true. What I like about YouTube is you can learn just about anything you need to learn about on YouTube. There's somebody on there that's done it and is teaching it. So yeah, I do. I like that you brought that up. Um, how long have you been writing?
Seriously taken writing since 2000. I started some research in
2000.
1997, but as
Okay.
far as writing, trying to learn how to, publish and whatever, I'll say 2000. And I've just really got real, real,
Okay.
real serious about 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah, I started writing when I was in middle school, and it was just like a it was my mom liked to read and I like to write. So but I didn't take it seriously until many, many years later that I really started taking it seriously as seeing that it could be something more than just a hobby. So yeah, that's so do you still have like for me, my first serious piece, actually it's my first piece, period. I'm now going back and revising it. And I'm learning a lot more about the whole revising process. And you know what I've learned is the way that I wrote back then is so different from the way that I wrote right now. Like the way that I write now is a lot more, it's a lot better. Have you experienced the same thing?
Yes.
The growth? Yeah.
Yeah, I have that first manuscript that is just as ugly as it can be. Um, it's in my, in my home library. I don't know if I
Okay.
want to revise it or not. I go and I look at it every so often, really just for a good laugh. Like,
Yeah.
no, seriously, it was bad. How dare did I think that
And
somebody
this
was
is
going to
great,
buy this? And some
right?
people bought it, was made it so funny. If they
Yeah,
would really
yeah,
turn their back on that, then I probably wouldn't
yeah,
be talking to you right now.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
seriously, it's bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm there. I'm there now. I'm now looking back and I'm like, people like this. Like, I mean, I like the story. The story's great, but it's like I personally can see why it may need more help. Like, I'm like, oh my, some of the lines, and then some of the, because I do a lot of fiction, so some of the character dialogue, I was like, nobody talks like that. Nobody says it. Like, what kind of slang is that? That's. But when I wrote it, I was like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. Like, Kill Me Dead. That would have been perfect for me. That's a bestseller. So yeah, I'm learning that now. When I go back, you go back and you look, and now you've had experience. If you've read other people's works, you've written for years, and now you start to see. You go back with those kind of I want to say critical eyes, or like you're critiquing, but yeah, I guess you are critiquing.
Yeah,
But
but you step back from it too. You're no
yeah,
longer that
yeah,
attached to it. That's, well, for
yeah.
me, that's how it worked out. I
No,
look
that's
at that
true.
work and it's like, I wrote that. I'm completely removed from it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
No, really, who wrote this? Yeah. And my thing is, I used to read my book. I still do read my book once a year, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't until I really got into how it for me with my first book. It was like the first three chapters. It was just the first three chapters. The rest of the book did the was pretty good, and I could understand why people liked it. But the first three chapters, I did a lot of telling the story and not showing the story. So now I'm going back over and I'm using that technique of showing and don't tell, and going back over the story. And for me, it's like 10 times better. I think it's 10 times better. And it always bothered me that something was off, because the first the first two chapters, I think it's mainly the first two chapters that really kind of annoyed me, but I never understood why. But going to college and taking English, and now I'm learning more about writing. Now it's like it clicked. Now I knew what was wrong. So I went back, and I'm having fun. I'm having
If
fun
I
with it. But
decide to rewrite
mhm,
that book, I'm going to have to just hand that over to someone
right.
and let them just use the base foundation of it and
Yeah.
rewrite it. And maybe I can just look over their shoulder.
And yeah,
Um,
to see how they
right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, writing is a fascinating, fascinating talent. And what I love about it is anybody can be a writer. I know a lot of people don't think they can, but anybody can become a writer. Anybody can really become an author. All it takes is training, because even if you have the talent for writing, if you have the natural passion for writing or not, you can develop the writing abilities. So I mean, that's one of the fun things about that craft. So what is your goal for this year with writing books? Do you plan on releasing any more books this year, or you have plans to do it in a couple years? What's
Um,
your plan?
it depends on how my short stories come about. I may
Mhm.
release another book at the very end of this year, around
Okay.
October, November, if I have the number and quality of short stories.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, so you're gonna do another like collection of short stories?
Yes, maybe.
Okay. Oh, maybe.
I
Maybe.
just have to see what's going on closer to the end of this year and if I'm able to save up enough money to make it easier, for me.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you when you do your publishing, you do it through the KDP, or Like, do you do all of them through KDP or you do it through a different platform or
What I
all?
did, okay, I didn't actually use the KDP. Someone did it
Okay.
for me.
Oh, okay, okay,
Because
okay.
years ago I tried to use CreateSpace, and
Mhm.
it just didn't work for me to actually do it. So
Yeah.
someone else who's familiar with that format, I get it
Mhm.
already. I get the manuscript ready, even formatting. Since I have a friend that formats well,
Okay,
and I
okay,
just
okay.
pay her to format, and then we turn
Mhm.
it like we did this time. We turned it over to someone who was familiar
Mhm.
with all those formats and used them before, and it didn't cost me a lot of money.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, that's something that I learned when I published my first book. There was so much that I didn't know. I was so ignorant, and I didn't know what I should be asking a publisher, and I didn't know the difference between a vanity publisher and a traditional publisher. Um, Self-publishing to me seemed like a mountain that I didn't know if I could climb that mountain or not. So my first experience, I kind of got scammed. I partially blame myself. The other part I blame on they don't really explain what the difference is. I really wish someone had sat down with me and said, you're paying this is not traditionally published. You're not a traditionally published author. This is vanity publishing because you're paying me to publish your book. I really wish they had explained that to me. I was thinking, oh, I'm getting published, and I kind of got caught up in that. And they send you the whole welcome letter and everything that you're going to be published. But I paid about $3,000 to have my book published, and I thought that it included editing, and it didn't.
mm-mm.
And I find this out the day before the book's set to be released.
Oh no.
So yeah, it was a hot mess. My first book was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. But after that experience, that's when I said, okay, you know what, April, you gotta stop being scared of, because in a way, I was like, I was afraid. I was afraid of what I didn't know in the whole publishing industry. So I started diving in and I started learning. And because of that, I learned how to create my own book covers. I learned how to format a book. I learned how to, and it was Create Space that really helped me. But the Create Space platform, it looks very, very, how should I put it? It looks simple, and it is. It takes some time to really, really take a minute to get to know it. I mean, they don't exist anymore. Now it's KDB Prints. But I had liked Create Space because I think when I found them, they were called Book Surge, and they were just turning into Create Space. And he I got in there when they're still called Book Surge, and then they converted to Create Space. But the guy told me, like, look, if you take the time to learn all the different parts of it, you can publish your own book. He said, aside from the editing, he goes, you can publish your own book. You just have to find someone who can edit your book or whatever, or pay them. And their editing rates were high. A lot of those, even the one I came from, their editing rates was like 75 cents a word. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and CreateSpace, their editing was just like slightly cheaper. Slightly, it wasn't much. But
Mm.
yeah, it's editing. Good editing is not cheap. I get that.
Well, I know that,
So
but still,
yeah,
even good, you can get a good editor for
75.
less than that.
Yeah, yeah, that was crazy. But I got through it. I learned, but I one thing I always appreciate, I was happy for, is that I learned all the different parts of it. So now it's an option to hire somebody else. If I can't find somebody else, then I know I can do it myself. And I guess that's something I would want all people who's thinking about publishing and writing a book to understand. Like, you can do this on your own. It's a lot more work. It is a lot more work, but it's worth it because I don't know. I'm the type of person, I love learning new things. So for me, it's worth it. Yeah. So tell me, and this is going to be, we're rounding it up now. Um, how is the author challenge going for you? What's your experience with the author challenge? We've been having
I
technical difficulties.
I haven't actually entered one yet.
Mm. Well, talk about this
Um,
one. Mhm.
oh, okay. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. This one, um, the challenge was just
I mean, the real challenge
trusting
is just,
myself, just
yeah.
trusting myself, knowing that I had maybe 75% of it under control.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
did have
yeah.
some money. Um,
Mhm.
I was working with a good person. I said I have a friend that is a can format
Wow,
that it's
that's
like
good.
second nature to her.
Yeah.
And like I paid her, and it wasn't like an undercut. It wasn't the same amount as going to someone else that I didn't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she was fine. She made a decent amount of money,
Mhm.
but just made the process easier.
Mhm.
Uh, we talked about it. She let me
Mhm.
know the reason why I have to do this is because your book is this size, and
Mm.
so you're going to have to do this for me, so that way when I format, we don't have anything
Mhm.
hanging off the edge or or whatever.
Right. Right.
Found a graphic artist who's just great. Uh,
Mhm.
he was easy to work with.
Nice.
Very straightforward. He said, "Well, if you do this, you're gonna have to leave a little more room, so that
Mhm.
way, when everything comes together, you don't find yourself with a couple of paragraphs, on your cover
Right.
being
Right.
scrunched, together. Your ISBN code,
Mhm.
will be fine. Um,
Mhm.
if you want to put the price in there, you can. He suggested don't do it because you never know who's going to get the
Yeah.
book,
Yeah. He's right. Yeah.
and they may need to do something else price wise. So he said for
Yeah.
him, it's just best just to leave the price out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we
That's
kind
true.
of
That's very true.
and we kind of wrestled a little bit with, and it was me. I said, well,
Mhm.
what about? He said that's not going to be an issue for you. He said, and I can understand if you were going with one of those big publishing houses,
Mhm.
it would be an issue. But he said they would be doing that,
Mm. Yeah. That's true. That's some good advice.
and
Because
I took it.
yeah, yeah. It's true. Yeah, he was right. He gave you some good advice. Yeah, so well, it was nice talking to you, and I enjoyed our conversation and learning more about pieces of me with company. And I look forward to seeing how the challenge goes for you. I'm hoping that everybody benefits. I'm trying to create something that's mutually benefiting to both parties. And the one thing that I'm enjoying about this author challenge is I'm getting to learn and learn more about authors like you, your books. You know, these are things that I know it sounds kind of crazy, but honestly, in this busy world, I would have never have looked you up if it wasn't for something like this. So that's something that I'm enjoying. I'm getting to learn about a lot new more authors. And one of my dreams is to one day have a library full of self-published authors. So your book will be in my collection.
Great.
And
It's been good
that's
for me
my I've
too.
always had that goal. Yeah, thank you.
It's been good for
Yeah.
me. Had a little reservation at first, but
Yeah.
this has just been great, and I'm learning a
Yeah.
lot, and just the
Yeah, this is
exchange
our
is good
first
for me.
time. Yeah. This is our first time, so, we're gonna see how this goes, but I'm gonna keep it going because I think it's something good. I'm This is how I'm gonna build my library collection, basically. So just I think it's the best way because not only do you just have a book, you actually know the author behind the book. And to me, that's priceless for me. So I'm glad that I got to meet you and that you came on the show and that you're a part of this challenge. And I wish you the most success And this 2022, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Okay.
You have a wonderful, wonderful day. Okay.
You do the same.
All right.